Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to another Top 10 Wednesday, or Top 10's Day if you'd prefer. And for today, we will be counting down the top 10 franchises that should never be rebooted. Coming in at number 10 is the Alien franchise. Ridley Scott's original 1979 Alien is not only one of the best sci-fi and horror movies of all time, but also one of the most iconic. Can you imagine that if a few years down the road they decided, hey, let's remake Alien, make everything CGI, and replace Sigourney Weaver as Ripley? I don't think so. That would not go over well with fans of the franchise at all. Now, of course, the franchise itself has kind of been rocky ever since the original sequel, Aliens. But myself personally, I do enjoy Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and I would like to see Ridley Scott get his third prequel movie. But after that, after the man who created the franchise finishes it off, just leave it be. Coming in at number 9 is the Mission Impossible franchise. This one's a little odd because it is one of the few franchises on here that is still going today. But can we all take 1 second to think, who is the face of this franchise? Okay, now that you've had your second, it's Tom Cruise, of course. When he's gone, who's gonna replace him as Ethan Hunt? A studio could never justify their decision in trying to reboot this franchise. It just doesn't make any sense. It's at the peak of its popularity. They have 2 more movies planned, and that will be the end of the franchise. And that should be it. Let them finish it. Coming in at number 8 is the Indiana Jones franchise. The man, the myth, the legend, Harrison Ford said it best himself. When he was asked on his thoughts if Chris Pratt should replace him as Indiana Jones in a rebooted franchise, he just simply said no. He went on to explain that he feels when he dies, Indiana Jones should die as well. And I couldn't agree more. Coming in at number 7 is the Toy Story franchise. With 3 movies already under its belt and a 4th on the way, this has to be one of the most iconic and fondly remembered animated franchises of all time. The first Toy Story is my personal favorite animated movie, and I could just simply not see anyone else voicing this cast. The time, love, and commitment that we've put into this franchise over the years is almost like any other franchise on the market. We are fully invested in these toys and their story, and if you were to try and replicate that, well, good luck. It just can't happen, and it should never happen. Coming in at number 6 is the Godfather franchise. The original Godfather and its sequel are often looked at as some of the best movies ever created. It makes no sense to me at all to ever even want to remake these. They are damn near perfect, and they are perfect because they were made when they were, with the cast that they had, the director that they had, and the writing that they had. The audacity of someone to try and remake The Godfather, I wouldn't want to be that person, I know that. Coming in at number 5 is the Matrix franchise. It had an amazing first movie and then 2 sequels that are not fondly looked at. The Matrix franchise is still looked back on as one of the greatest sci-fi action franchises ever created, with the original, of course, literally changing the landscape of how people think and see our world. So to try and mimic that and recreate that somehow, it's just not going to work. It was groundbreaking with its CGI work, posed big questions, had big ideas, and that's something that just cannot be done twice. Coming in at number 4 is the Back to the Future franchise. Okay, this is a trio of films that I hold very closely, near and dear to my heart. This is another one of those franchises that works because of its leads, and you just simply cannot recreate the chemistry that they had. And of course you have the DeLorean and the wacky time-traveling adventures that they went on. It worked because, once again, when it was created. Back in the 80s and early 90s, it gave this movie some extra added charm that you just could not do in today's world. Having it be all CGI'd up and trying to make these characters who they once were with new actors, it just cannot, could not, and should not happen. Coming in at number 3 is the Star Wars franchise. This is a franchise that probably will never need to be rebooted because it will most likely live on forever. With Episode 9 releasing this year, marking the end of the Skywalker saga, don't you dare for a second think that that's the end of this franchise. There will be spin-offs, new trilogies, new characters, and new stories to tell until the end of time. But if Disney ever, and I mean ever, tries to reboot or remake the original trilogy, people will actually sharpen their pitchforks and light their torches. I highly doubt anyone at Disney would be stupid enough, but here is your warning from me. Never ever reboot the original trilogy. Coming in at number 2 and the runner-up on today's list is the Harry Potter franchise. This is another one, again, where it comes back to the characters. If you ever got anyone else to play them, they just simply would not be able to connect with audiences like these 3 did. We watched them grow up, quite literally. From 2001 to 2011, we saw these 3 and the rest of the cast grow over that decade from being little children to full-blown adults. That is something in my mind that will never ever be replicated again in Hollywood. A journey like that, with characters like that, and the story that was told can simply just not happen again. And finally, coming in at number 1 on today's list is the Lord of the Rings franchise. Now for this, I'm primarily talking about the Lord of the Rings trilogy, not so much the Hobbit trilogy, but they definitely shouldn't be rebooted either. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is arguably the best trilogy of all time. Just like One Ring to rule them all, this is one movie trilogy to rule them all. Whether it's the cast, the storytelling, the visuals, anything and everything about this franchise really is one of a kind. I mean, even Peter Jackson himself could not replicate what he did with this original trilogy. He just did not carry over the same visual and storytelling style that he had in that original trilogy. There's just no way that you could ever possibly reboot this franchise and have it come anywhere near the pure epicness that is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So that is my list for today. If you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know, what are some franchises that you think should never be rebooted? As always, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap.